In 1999, Elon Musk tried to make X.com the biggest internet bank. This is how he failed. In the early 90s, Musk had interned at the Bank of Nova Scotia. Despite being just 18 years old at the time, he felt the bankers around him didn't understand his genius ideas. They were dumb, and so he decided traditional banking was ripe for disruption. And after he became a dot-com millionaire from selling his City Guide business to Compaq, he had the money to make it happen. In March 1999, Musk officially started X.com, a new internet finance company. There's just a couple of things you need to know about the internet in the late 90s. Firstly, not many people were on it, and those who were didn't exactly trust it. 60% of Americans didn't use the internet at all, and those who did were only just getting used to the idea of typing in their credit card number. The other issue was that when people saw the letter X on the web, it usually meant one very specific thing. Still, Musk had the kind of confidence that you can only get from becoming a 27-year-old multimillionaire, and had taken to driving around Silicon Valley in a McLaren F1. His experience in banking was fairly small, so he bought a book to help him understand how the industry worked. He was on a high and invested most of his fortune into this new company, but he believed there was a potential for big returns in upending the massive finance industry. Unfortunately, he quickly found out there were a lot of rules and regulations around starting a financial institution, which massively slowed down progress. But he was still promising big things to the press, who'd become infatuated with him as the Valley's newest superstar. His co-founders were less impressed, accusing him of unethical business practices and overhyping what they were trying to build. At the end of July 1999, just 5 months into the company's life, the majority of employees walked out to start a new company, leaving Musk to build X.com with very little help. But Musk was undaunted. He used his charisma to talk a bunch of new engineers into joining, and a few months later, one of the world's first online banks was a reality. And the company did some innovative things. You could send money to another person with just their email address, a revolutionary concept at the time. There were no fees or overdraft penalties. More than 200,000 people signed up for X.com within the first 2 months. But it wasn't long until there were more problems. Fraudsters started to find ways to steal large amounts of money. Peter Thiel's company were building a very similar service called PayPal, who started spending millions to attract users. Elon got his employees working 20-hour days implementing new features to win the war with PayPal. When it looked like they were losing, Musk negotiated a smart solution. In March 2000, X.com merged with PayPal, making Musk CEO of the combined company. But the squabbling continued. There was the question of whose brand they should use. Musk wanted to keep the X name, nearly everyone else preferred PayPal. The website showed a confusing mesh of both names for a while, with PayPal being the name of the product and X the name of the company. Internally, the PayPal team were fighting to use open source software like Linux, while Musk preferred Microsoft. The technology issue devolved into an almost religious war, leaving Thiel to resign and others threatening to walk. Once again, Musk was in charge of a company divided. And the problems kept mounting. The service wasn't built to cope with the huge numbers of customers that were joining up every day. The levels of fraud increased to unsustainable numbers. Musk ordered a complete rewrite of the codebase, but this just made things worse, distracting engineers from fixing the growing number of issues. Employees started to wonder if Musk was really the genius leader he made himself out to be. One night, a small group of X.com employees got together at a nearby bar to plan a coup. They would push out Musk and bring back Peter Thiel as CEO. And they would do it in secret, when Musk was least expecting it. In September 2000, Elon and Justine Musk boarded a flight to Sydney for a belated honeymoon. They'd got married 9 months earlier, but work had gotten in the way until now. Things were still busy at X.com, but they decided the time was right and hoped to catch some of the Sydney Olympics while they were there. By the time they landed, Musk was no longer CEO. The band of revolutionaries had waited until Musk was cut off from his phone for several hours, so there was no possibility of failure, a strategy that his loyalists later called backhanded and cowardly. Elon got the first plane back to California, but it was too late. The board had voted to fire him and make Peter Thiel the new CEO. Less than a year later, the last remaining mark of Musk was removed. X.com officially rebranded to PayPal. Elon's reputation was in tatters. Tech sites openly wondered whether he should even be considered as a co-founder of PayPal, rather than just a lucky investor. The criticisms bothered Musk, to the point that in 2007 he wrote a lengthy email to Gawker's Valleywag gossip blog, setting out the real story. He was instrumental in the company's success, he argued. It was him who pushed the viral marketing strategy. He had recruited millions of users and overseen much of the technical engineering. He'd been the one signing up all the top talent, like Roelof Botha, who was the CFO and who went on to help fund YouTube. There was Jeremy Stoppelman, the VP of Engineering, who later co-founded Yelp. In fact, the PayPal team were so successful and respected in the tech industry, they became known as the PayPal Mafia, and many of them were originally hired by Musk. Other accounts varied, particularly in Eric Jackson's The PayPal Wars, which painted Musk as an ego-driven idiot who constantly made bad decisions. Musk later called Jackson a jackass who was never much higher than an intern at PayPal and so couldn't have known what was really going on. Most of the PayPal alumni agreed with Musk's account, but also believed that Musk was making some big mistakes, particularly with the branding and technology. You might think this story is about the failure of Elon Musk, but that's really only the start of the story, and one that culminated in a huge win. There was no vindictiveness on Musk's part. In fact, he continued investing in the company, increasing his stake as much as possible, and supporting Thiel in his new role. This turned out to be a shrewd decision, because PayPal became a thriving business with over 100 million users around the world, in large part thanks to a deal with eBay to add PayPal as a payment option for auctions. eBay was soon asking to acquire PayPal, and even though the dot-com bubble was already bursting around them, with tech companies' valuations falling every day, Musk actually told the board that they should reject the offer and hold out for more money. He thought they could get more by going public. It was a gamble, but it paid off. On their first day of trading in 2002, PayPal shares went up by over 50%. Just a few months later, eBay acquired PayPal for a massive $1.5 billion, with Musk personally walking away with $180 million. He went from super rich to mega rich, and even though his ego was bruised, he now had the means to invest in his passion projects. He'd learnt lessons about technical problems and interpersonal relationships which would help him perfect his later ventures, and it's this willingness to fail and make mistakes that all entrepreneurs need for success. But even though the first iteration of X.com failed, he never let go of the dream. After buying the domain name back from PayPal in 2017, he's now thrown away the Twitter brand to take the X name for another spin. So what's next for X? We can find clues in what Musk has said about the last time he tried to make X a thing. The reason he hated the PayPal name was that he felt it was too narrow. Paying your pals should be just a small part of the business, he thought. It should also be easy to pay for things in online stores. And if you're paying through X, and the store accepts payment through X, the transaction doesn't need to go through the credit card network, and so the transaction is basically free. Everyone profits, and especially Elon Musk. But it remains to be seen if rebranding a social network is the best first step in executing this plan. So I want to know what you think. Is this plan going to work for Elon Musk? Was the original X.com really a failure? And what would you do with Twitter? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to press subscribe before you go. I'll see you next time.